Hey guys, my name is Thomas Ivor and welcome to my YouTube channel. In this video, we're gonna focus on the cinematic music basics. We're gonna break down my own composition and I'm gonna teach you 15 tips for you to get started composing in this style. Let's dive right in. Alright, I have a project opened here. It's my composition called Childhood. I did compose this thing about 3 years ago, and the whole composition is strictly symphonic. So we have a string section, some rhythm section through piano and a harp, percussion section, unpitched and pitched, brass and woodwinds. I usually divide my instruments into groups. And as you can see, each instrument has got its own articulation on its own track. So I don't use any key switches or switch articulations. I didn't get used to it yet, so this works best for me. And as I mentioned, each group is divided into 2 subcategories, highs and lows. So it's much easier than when you're in the mix stage. I'm gonna play you the whole thing and then we'll dive into more concrete parts, so I could show you what I did here. Okay, that was childhood. This is not a complex composition and not by any means a composition which you would say, oh my god, this is the best thing ever. No, really, this is a perfect composition for showing a motivic work and several tips and tricks I could give you. I'm gonna dive much deeper in the future videos in what combination of which instruments and instrumentation in general works best in cinematic music and what motivic work we can do. This whole thing starts with the simple motif. That's like a first part, and here's the second part. Then I repeat the motif again. With a slight variation at the end. Okay, whenever you're starting a composition, especially a cinematic one, you wanna always keep an attention of a listener. So always try to add some new elements or take elements away to keep the thing interesting. In this case, I'm repeating the motif again, but I'm building up in my orchestra, so mainly a string section and a flute continuing its staccato answering of the motif. By introducing new elements or taking some elements and instruments away throughout the composition, we are creating contrast. And the contrast is one of the most important things in composition. So in this case, I'm repeating the main motif played by a piano and harp, and I'm building up with the playfulness through the string section playing a pizzicato. It stays innocent and playful. And here, since this part is heading towards its end, I'm introducing a legato strings, especially the first, second violins, violas and celli, and they're creating a beautiful transition for our next part. A little intermezzo. And here I'm building up for a new part of the composition, but the motif stays the same. Now, I must say one important thing. You wouldn't usually want to put the main motif as the first thing playing right away at the beginning of the song. You might want to save it for at least a few bars later, so you create the mood and then introduce the motif. But in this composition, this was purely intentional. And another tip I can give you is transitions. Whenever you're changing part of your song and the composition, so let's say this whole part was in the music form like a letter A, then we're heading to a letter B. And since a letter B will be a little bit different, we want to create a transition between those sections. So that's when the percussion comes in, and with just a simple timpani roll and a suspended cymbal roll, you can create a smooth transition between those parts. When you want to build up some part of your compositions, it usually pays well when you have several instruments playing the melody, an instrument which is playing a counter melody to the main melody, in this case the viola, and an instrument which is playing a rhythmic portion of your composition, that's cello. It's playing a simple chords through arpeggios. When I solo the strings, it creates a beautiful part, and I wanted this part to be a little bit more romantic. So through the combination of the main melody played in the violin combined with the flute and the oboe, it's like a recipe for romance. As we head to the end of this part of the song, I'm continuing with the solo melody in the oboe combined with the harp. First, conclusion of the motif. And here's the oboe and the harp. Let me rephrase what I did in the form. Here's the introduction, or a capital A in our form. Here's the part which I named a capital B, but it's actually an A with an apostrophe, which is the same form as the capital A, but with a slight variation, so it's not the same. So let's call it A with apostrophe. And here's the B part. In the B part, the solo oboe with the harp is introducing a new melody. As our composition advances throughout the time, we want to create a new elements and the new points of interest for a listener. After this section, I'm not finished with that new melody yet. I'm having it played again, but by strings, and in this case a cello in the higher position, which is creating this beautiful tension with romance, and then I have just violas and the second violins and some little tremolos there to fill the texture and the harmony there. And I'm building it up for another section. In this case, I want to introduce the brass and the whole orchestra. So here it comes. And we have a return of our original motif. And since I didn't want this composition to end yet, I introduced a new section or a new part of the composition, and that's our playful motif. And this whole part consists of instruments playing with the short articulations. So a pizzicato playing by strings. By the way, pizzicato is when you play your string instrument by plucking the strings by your fingers. And I'm using a staccatos in the woodwinds and a little bit of glockenspiel for this playfulness. So as we advance into new part of this composition, I wanted to start from a very small. So just a legato in the first violins and the piano. And the strings will create this beautiful build-up, so it will gradually connect to each other. And it's building up. Here's the woodwinds, doubling the same melody, creating the tension, and the release of our final part of the composition. And here's the return of the main motif in the piano. And the final chord, doubled with strings. So, what we learned? We have a form consisting of several parts in this composition. First, a letter A. Here's A with apostrophe. Here's the part, a letter B. And we transition into a letter C, where we start with a very little. Then the C with the apostrophe, because it's playing the same melody as C, but in the different instruments, and it's slightly different. Then it transitions into a letter D, which is the return of the original motif, but now played by the whole orchestra. And I didn't want to end there, so I continued to a letter E, which introduced a new part of the composition, which was the playfulness, all those short articulations. And then we went to the final section. The use of the strings for the very last chord, I always like to use that. So you play the last chord in the piano and you double it with the strings, but having a dynamic play uphill and in the middle downhill. So it's this inhale and exhale. It creates a beautiful romantic texture. So as the song develops, you create your own images in the head, and as it progresses, those images change to that. So cinematic music consists of 4 main parts. First part is the motif, or the main melody, the main idea of your composition. It should serve as a guide throughout your music that helps them narrate throughout the composition. The second part is a harmony. So that's your language in which you're telling your motif. So you can have a beautiful motif, but it can be played in the various settings, in a major harmony, in minor, augmented chords, sus chords, diminished, and each chord or each harmony creates its own mood and its own setting. The third part consists of the form. We did divide my composition into 5 parts or 5 capital letters, and I recommend you doing that because it can help you get more original and you can experiment better with exchanging different parts of your composition which you usually wouldn't maybe even think of. The fourth and the final part of what makes cinematic music cinematic is the tempo and the rhythm. Let's make an example. When you compose a romantic theme, you might not want to compose it in the tempo of, for example, BPM 180, because it just wouldn't articulate that well. It would be quickly paced and you wouldn't express those emotions as you might want to express in the slower paced tempo. And the same goes for the rhythm and the time signature of your piece. An action cue might require a totally different time signature than a romantic or an introvert piece. So definitely bear this in mind. Okay, I've got an important point to make. Whenever you're composing a cinematic music just for the sake of listening to it, feel free to do whatever you want. All the contrasts, all the tips I just gave you, the sky's the limit. But bear in mind that the main purpose of the cinematic music is to support a picture. So whenever you're watching a movie, your favorite TV show or a cinematic from a video game, and the music is catching too much of your attention in the wrong places, it actually does a bad job. Because your job as a film composer is to help support a drama. You're helping to tell a story through the music. You're helping the audience to feel what they're supposed to feel in a certain scene. Thank you very much for watching. And if you find this topic interesting, trust me, I've got plenty of more videos coming, so feel free to subscribe to this channel and maybe even hitting that notification bell so you'll get notified whenever I post a video and a puppy won't cry somewhere in the world. Thank you, and I'll see you in the next one.